podcast with my friend Randy, aka Silverfawks. So basically, we're gonna kind of just talk about whatever the heck we want, or what people would mostly consider nerdy things, I guess. So basically, we're just gonna ask you to sit tight. Hopefully, we can entertain you over the next like half hour or so. So, welcome to our podcast, Good Games Played Badly, and thank you for stopping by. So basically, the first thing that we're going to talk about today is recently announced. Today is July 3rd, 2020, if anybody wanted to know. So the Fallout TV series. So pretty excited about this myself. I'm a huge lore nerd when it comes to Fallout. So Fallout, they're talking about the creators at Westworld. They're actually going to be developing it. So that would be just so great with the quality of it from Amazon Studios as well. So from what I heard also, just to extend it out there, and this is, what I read, this isn't something that has been confirmed to me at all. So they have a contract that stipulates that it does not have to go through a pilot stage. So with Amazon, the producers will bring it to Amazon with the script. If they do like the script, they will accept it, and it will go through to just create the TV series. If they don't like it, they would reject it, but the producers would still get paid. So, in hindsight, I can't imagine Amazon would have them make a script and then pay them and then it go nowhere. Plus, it just sounds like a great idea. So the first thing we want to talk about was just our general theories on everything. So I wanted to send that over to Silver over here just so we have, an idea of really where we think this is going to go. 'Cause he's a very big Fallout fan as well. So if you want to take it over, Silver.
All right. So, my first question was whether or not they're going to go with something that's existing, like, Fallout 1, 2, 3, 4, any of those.
Right.
I feel like the best bet would be something original, maybe near, with like a tie-in to New California Republic, something just a new property but connected. I feel like that would probably be a better route. But it's it's a idea that gives you a lot of different options. You could go to pretty much any part of the country and see what's happening after the Great War or what have you.
Well, the other thing that I heard today was just a cool idea too. If anybody that follows Fallout knows who Oxhorn is, so he basically brought up the idea of what if they did Canada, the United States annexed Canada right before this all happened. So who knows? Maybe this could take place in Canada, give it a little bit different perspective, and see maybe what they went through. Because did they get bombed? In all reality, why would China bomb Canada? I know it
Well,
was
maybe they hit
part.
Alaska.
That is true. The Chinese also had their own troops in Alaska. I'm thinking still at the time from the Battle of Anchorage. So that was the other thing. So my theory on it, and we talked about it for a little while. I'll try to make it a little bit shorter. So basically, Fallout Tactics is non-canonical anymore. It took place in Texas. So I was thinking Texas is south. It's close to the border with Mexico. That'd be another aspect to see how it affected a different country that didn't have anything to do with it. The other thing is, too, it is close to California and the West Coast, where you have the NCR, the Enclave, and obviously you have the FEV virus with the super mutants. All takes place in California. Where if you put the show in the East Coast or something like that, it's going to be a lot more hard to explain how that kind of stuff got over there. In Fallout 4, they explain it, but it's, hundreds of years after. So, there's time, but I don't know if they're going to go the route where they push it that far ahead, hundreds of years. So what I was saying to Silver was basically, have it in Texas, then have it revolve around maybe a recon squad of NCR soldiers, because obviously they're going to go around and search for settlements and resources and stuff like that. So, but if the creators of Westworld, it has to do with synthetic human beings. If anybody obviously plays Fallout 4, a lot of the story has to do with the Institute and creating synthetic synthetic human beings. So if they did extend it out, hundreds of years or whatever till the first Gen 3 synths were actually built, maybe that main character can be a synth or something. A Corsair can come, wipe out his team, and he turns into the lone wanderer of that TV show. He's wandering through the wastelands, trying to, get his way back to California. He can run into Las Vegas. We can see a lot of those callbacks to the video game, since Bethesda's obviously helping with the show as well. And I just feel like it could hit a lot of the favorite parts of what Fallout is. So I personally think that would be really cool. But obviously this is all theories and just, tinfoil hat stuff. We don't know anything about what's happening in the show right now.
Well, I feel like the idea of a wanderer it's a pretty solid idea for that concept.
Right.
You can pretty much guarantee he's going to be going somewhere to someplace else.
Well, Fallout 3, you're a wanderer.
Yeah.
Fallout
Yeah.
1, you're a wanderer from your vault trying to get your water chip. Fallout 2, you're a descendant of that first wanderer, and you are the wandering through as, trying to get water and trying to have your family survive and stuff. You're always a solar wanderer, but we also talked about the fact that you need to have companions. You have to have something, like some type of companion, even if it's not a dog, like dog meat or whatever, which would still be cool, but they need to add, like, some type of animal companion, because that's what Fallout is. There's always a dog meat or something like that, so...
Well, what I just thought of? Another route they could take it. What if it's smaller scope, focused more on like an individual vault? Maybe one of the ones where they're doing certain tests,
right.
And almost like a horror aspect.
Well, that would be a cool way to jump into it too. I mean, I can remember any time going into like vaults and like checking them out for the first time in like the earlier games. It was always like a pretty tough task. It was always overrun by pretty tough enemies. So yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I mean, Who knows how they're going to take this, but I can't imagine, I said it to you, I can't imagine it's not going to come out for another 4 years or so. But at least it's something to look forward to, and I'm glad they gave it to us, just something to speculate and get excited about. So
Definitely.
So the other thing I just wanted to quickly, while we're on the Fallout subject, you guys didn't check it out, Fallout 76. Obviously, they got the Wastelander update a while back. They did get a battle pass now. That's like a free battle pass. You don't have to pay for anything. Really cool, worth checking out. I've definitely been hopping in a lot lately, so I just want to throw that out there for anybody that is interested in something like that and is wondering how, Fallout 76 is playing right now, because we all know it didn't go well in the beginning. So
on the topic of free, now me and Wizzy both kind of got screwed on this because we did pay cash, but the game is now available on Xbox Game Pass for free. I believe next week it will be added.
yeah.
So, no better time to jump in and check all that out.
Yeah, definitely be worth it. So Game Pass, probably next week or so was the rumor. If you could check in on that, obviously just Google it or whatnot. So
yeah.
All right, so we want to transition now into literally like my absolute favorite part of everything is just Star Wars. So we'd be crazy to not talk about Star Wars Squadrons. So excited for this game. I was really big into the X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, and the first person, I like the third person in Battlefront too, don't get me wrong, but this as a first person, being able to have it almost like on a realistic, you have to work together as a team, there's different scenarios that you're in. I love the design of the ships, the capital ships, the whole like just scenario situation behind that is just such a great concept, and I'm so happy that they did this. And then I'll talk about my other favorite part a little bit later on, but it does have to do with the price. But let me have Silver talk a little bit about his thoughts on the game.
All right, so now I don't typically play flying games in general.
Well, you get
I do love Star Wars, but your love of it definitely way outshines mine.
Yep, yeah.
I like the idea of the focus on story. I don't like so much the required first person. I can see why they want to do that. It makes sense, but I don't really. When I do play flying games, it's not really first person. I don't play driving games in first person, probably because I can't drive in real life. But just the third person view makes me feel I have more control. That being said, there is enough here with the customization, the idea of the story. I like the idea of the squads, and especially if you do have friends to play with.
Mhm.
That's enough to get somebody like me who doesn't play these kind of games to still pick it up and try it, because I think there is enough there, especially like you mentioned, for the price point.
Right. So I'll just say it quickly, just so we know. $40, $39.99 out the door. Uh, that's great. I think that's awesome. We'll talk more about price points and stuff later on. But just $40 is, I love it. So really quickly, I just want to give a background with the game. So right now, it is, from what we know, it's set after the Battle of Endor and the destruction of the two Death Stars. The story alternates between two customizable pilots who are flying for the New Republic Vanguard Squadron and the Empire's Titan Squadron. The multiplayer supports up to 10 players and pits two groups of pilots against each other. So basically what they showed us in all the gameplay and stuff like that was, you have four different ships on each side, so four different Rebel ships or New Republic ships and four different Empire ships. So when that's the case, you're gonna have to double up on ships, but it's all based on your squad. Like you have to talk to each other, get your ships all together. There's a sport class, there's basically an attack class, bombers. It's just a really good concept. It does come in full VR also, which I'm super excited about. I'm actually going to purchase a VR kit specifically for this game, just because, I feel like this would be a perfect game to do it on. And then the fact that the graphics aren't compromised because it's not solely a VR game. So you're getting the great graphics of a non-VR game, and then basically just throwing VR in there and being able to run everything in virtual reality, which I thought is a great idea. I know Silver doesn't really jump into the VR stuff or whatnot, so I'm not gonna really talk to him about that much, but just throwing it.
Well, I can see the merit there, and I know that it's gaining support. Like I feel like this kind of thing is only good for the industry, because you do have things like No Man's Sky where they add VR and it's cool after the
Skyrim,
fact,
Fallout
Skyrim.
4.
But I think developers going with VR from the start, but not locking the game behind only VR,
Right,
really kind of bridges that gap in a good way.
right,
And it
I
can
agree.
give you, what level of immersion do you want? You want
Right,
to play it regular with a controller? Cool. You want VR? Well, you can do it your way.
right. Well, the other thing that was I thought, and I know we didn't get a lot of the information on it yet, but with the customization options, obviously the outside isn't as customization heavy, because apparently there are weak points on each ship. Changing the design of the ship is gonna change those weak points, so apparently that is a game thing that you just can't change the ship other than like the color and little cosmetic things. But the big thing is in the cockpit, the weapons, the shield systems, the picture of the abilities that they showed, and I'll add it in post. But the picture is just, and it's not even all of them, but it's literally a full screen of just, at least 30 or 40 different abilities, and that, like I said, is just like one scroll of it. So the amount of customization options, I'm excited to see what that's going to be like, just because, like, you normally wouldn't think to yourself, like in a flying game, like, what other customization options can you do besides cosmetic? But when it comes to the Star Wars universe, being able to have, deflector shields and engine speeds and energy for your weapons and stuff like that, I feel like it just adds another element to the game to where you do need to, get with your team and actually get that stuff down. Because if you're running in and all five of you decide to run in with bombers, you're done. You're not going to do anything, especially if the other team has anything that's remotely quicker than a bomber. So the customization options I was excited about. I don't know if you heard of anything else that maybe I didn't.
Actually, yes. As far I just read something earlier today. Cosmetic wise, they give you the options. I know, like there's cockpit toys,
Right.
different exterior things you can do.
Hmm.
But there's an option for purists if you just want the as seen, on TV or in movies or whatever
Cockpits.
other
Yeah.
media, like to just not see those things. So if you don't want to see the people you're flying against with, whatever cosmetics they might have, you just have the pure non-cosmetic option. It looks like they're adding.
Hmm.
And then, of course, like you mentioned, with the managing energy and stuff like that, as far as customization, it looks like they have it baked in that you can either really go into the little minute details as
Right.
far as maneuvering that stuff around, or if you're someone like me and that would just be too much, you don't have to focus on those things.
Right.
Because I'd be flying into ships and whatnot, trying to manage shields and
Right.
everything.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great thing, and I'm really glad that they went that route with it. Just because if you didn't have those customization options, it'd be such a bare bones game that I can't imagine many people would be willing to play it for more than a little bit. Maybe play both campaigns, and that's that. So I think they did a good job with it. So, but I also am with this $40 price point, I am a little concerned on what's going to be shipping with the game. What content's really going to be out there. So, who knows? I really don't. But really quick, the other thing I really wanted to mention too, because I've never heard this ever been talked about, and I feel like it is something to maybe consider. Is there a possibility out there for Star Wars Squadron to be an esport? Because I mean, in reality, I mean, this is going to be a very competitive game, and it's going to have a very high learning curve. So, in the customization options and that kind of stuff, this could possibly translate to an esport and make it a very competitive game because you need to be on point with your squad because otherwise you're not going to be able to get the job done. Granted, there are AI pilots and stuff out there, and it does add that element of unknown, but I feel like in the same way where it adds unknown, it's going to add that extra, like in League of Legends, where you have, minions and stuff like that. They don't really do much, obviously. They're AI, but they're there. They make a difference because they can get in your way. They're distractions and stuff like that. So I just think that this is possibly a great opportunity to get into that realm of esports. So I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
I don't see a lot of flying games for esports. Granted, I don't know all the esports that there are, but I think it's maybe different enough that there's room for something new, and also similar enough to something like, I don't know, Rainbow Six, for instance, where you need that tight teamwork.
Hmm.
Maybe it's a good in between for somebody who wants to try something new, but also still get that team experience.
Right.
So maybe there is, and maybe someone will just start it and it turns into something else and opens up some other games that might be similar,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
maybe
it's so
change
different.
esports.
Yeah, no one's ever done the flying esports stuff. I mean, racing's an esport, so I mean, why can't a flying game? There's just not enough flying games out there. I mean, actually, to be fair, people use the word esport loosely, but people do play like flying simulators and call them esports. But I mean, it's not like a competitive esport. This is an attacking first person shooter mixed with like a driving game, like kind of thing. This
Well, you're
is
talking like tournaments, ladders, things like
right. Yeah,
that.
this could
Teams,
be a
maybe one.
5v5
Yeah,
competitive game where you can set up matches against each other and actually have tournaments. And I think that's a
yeah.
cool idea, and I think that is a great thing that they could really jump into the market on because I don't think EA's really had anything like that. So
Well, I think something that's really going to play a part is how much they bake that in. Like if they put things in there for clan support, good matchmaking, things like that. If they have it in the game already, then maybe that does open it up for something to happen down the line.
right. All right, so that's that with Squadrons. I think we touched everything that we wanted to on that. So,
$40 price tag.
I already yeah,
What were you thinking as far as what you get for that?
I mean, we have no idea really until it ships. I mean, every game is going to have their own showcase of stuff that they show you, and it's all initially going to look like a lot because it's,
Mm.
that. But the question is that all there is? Or is it going to ship with a bunch of other stuff that we don't know about? But there's really no way to know until, it comes to that point. I mean, like I said, it does make me a little nervous that it's $40, but at the same time, like I said, we have no idea. I mean, it looks like it's worth $40. I mean, there's gameplay on the screen right now. It looks like it's worth $40 for sure.
I
But
think $40 is a lot easier of an ask than trying to sell this at 65.
I feel like they could have charged easily 65 though, because it's VR on top of it. I mean, fucking Bethesda's charging full price for Fallout 4 VR right now. So it's
This
like,
is a poor example.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
people do it, and EA's no better than Bethesda. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. October 2nd, in case I didn't say it before. October 2nd, 2020. Go pre-order
We
it.
will update you.
Yes, we will update you as soon, like in every episode. If there's something to talk about with Squadrons, we'll talk about it. So don't worry about that. And then yeah, like I said, pre-order it. Add me on Steam, WizzyWizzard. I'll put both me and Silver's Steam ID and stuff in the description, just so if you guys want to play with us, you can. So staying with the Star Wars stuff, I just really wanted to quickly get into. I mean, recently we've been hearing some stuff about different rumors with new games in the pipeline. We can almost say for sure Jedi Fallen Order 2 is coming out. I mean, they were basically, I heard, building that game before the second one, or the first one even came out. Um, but they also have job postings that have gone on already that have basically just said it's almost known knowledge that everybody knows that it's coming out. So,
I thought I saw something indicating it was going to be a trilogy, but I might be wrong. I might have to backtrack on that.
I did not see that, but I mean, I wouldn't put it past it. There's a lot of stuff you can tell there because even though it's in an era that we know a lot about, we also have a lot of unknowns. And now that we have not visited Dathomir since all the Night Sisters got killed in Clone Wars. So that was really cool. And then we got a live Night Sister who's not crazy to join us, who has like a little romantic thing with Cal. They're both Force sensitive. A lot of people forget Night Sisters are absolutely Force sensitive. They just call it something different and they use it differently than a Jedi or a Sith or whatever. But they
It's
are.
kind of like a religion to them.
It's
Which I guess.
magics. It's the
Yeah.
magics is what it's called, but it is absolutely they are Force sensitive. So, Cal and Marin, just saying. Then on top of that, you have the whole thing with the Zepho. We know what they look like now, so we saw it in the game. We know that they worship the dark and the light side, because of the game. Obviously, Dathomir was a dark side temple to the dark side. That's why Malicos was hanging around it the whole time. And then,
You think that
obviously,
led to his corruption?
well, I feel like it has something to do with it, but there were some spots. I don't know if you remember in the campaign, if you scanned his starfighter, which was actually crashed on Dathomir, he was like super injured. It was like right after Order 66. So he was probably so angry and he was stranded on Dathomir with all these crazy creatures. So I think a lot of it was just his anger. I personally don't think he got into the temple, and I'm pretty sure they said that he didn't get into the temple until Cal actually got in there. That's why when you first run into him, he's standing outside of the temple, and he basically tells you not to go in. But it's like almost as like a reverse, like he's just basically like, don't go in, but like you're gonna go in just because he told you not
Yeah.
to. So like that's what I got from it. But so that they worship both sides of the Force, and that they left. They didn't all die out. So that's the other thing that's really cool. I'd be really curious to see them go to the outer regions or the unknown regions and find the Zepho again and maybe find more remnants of them or something. Um, obviously the unknown regions have the Chiss with, obviously Thrawn. Everybody knows who Thrawn is, but they have the Chiss out there and the Yuzong Bong out there. So like, there's a lot of things in the unknown region. I have Exegol with like Sith acolytes everywhere. So
Yeah.
like, there's a lot that they could explore in the unknown regions, and it's like I said, it's unknown. So that's, I think, a good place to start with Fallen Order 2. Just finding the Zepho. So what do you think?
Well, I floated the idea to you before, and you weren't on board as much. But I feel like a time skip might be a good idea. Like not an enormous amount of time, but if we see Cal as a more uh, trained, he's more comfortable with his powers. Whatever romantic, maybe there's a offspring or a child between him and Marin. Like I feel like there's a lot of potential there, depending on how far ahead you would go.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I can't imagine they would just stay like right after he cut the holocron in half and
yeah,
whatnot. I feel like they would have to put some time in between it because I mean, literally, he just fought Vader. Like there's, something, something happened in between that, and it couldn't have been like anything like super interesting. They probably laid low for a while. So I think in reality you're right that it should be a time skip. I don't want anything to where, oh, Cal's got a baby and this and that. Like I
well,
don't
maybe not a baby, like a child, or or maybe he's training somebody now. Like
I don't
there's
know.
possibilities.
I feel like having a child would go against everything that he just broke that holocron for. His kid's gonna be force sensitive. If he has a child with Marin, she's force sensitive. He's force
Yeah.
sensitive. You're basically forcing that kid to become a Jedi because that's just what you are. So I don't know. I think that goes against what he would want to do. But then again, it's like you can't really plan all that stuff. So
Well, bigger picture, if we make the assumption maybe that there is a trilogy, I'd like to see it go maybe way out there for the second game, like away from anything that we canonically know, and just new ideas,
ooh,
outer
yeah.
rim stuff, and then maybe the third game tie back into something. Because like if you look at tying into Vader at the end of this game,
We
spoilers,
can't though. We
you know.
can't. They can't tie into anything later on because Cal's not around during the three movies. So
Well, what
he's
happens to lead to that is what I'm saying. Like, you
right,
know,
but you would hear about it. That's what the problem is. So right after he fights Vader and stuff, that's probably it. Honestly, I can't imagine they're gonna go and be fighting the Empire again because you have all like the Inquisitors and stuff. Someone would have said something about Cal to
or-
someone. You
so
know
at
what I'm
this point,
saying?
his story just branches off away from
That's
anything
what I'm
canonical and
thinking.
open.
Right, yeah, I think
Cool.
that's the
Okay.
best way to do it, honestly, because they're also doing with the High Republic stuff. They're already doing that with a brand new era and everything. You might as well just go right out and just do it with everything. Don't stick to a formula that like is just the same thing over and over again. We know what happens in these eras. We know what happens in the prequels. We know what happens in the original era, and now we know what happens in the sequels. So going back to the High Republic is perfect because we have no idea what happened because so much stuff can happen in hundreds of years. That's the
Yeah.
best part about it. So I think they need to do that because Cal, like I said, is gone, and that's why I said, or Cal was not there when Luke and Leia and all them were doing all this stuff with the Empire. Also, it's like with trying to think of the best way to say it. So with the Zepho, because they're both the light side and the dark side, I feel like because of the way Star Wars Rebels ended with Thrawn and Ezra going to the unknown regions, I wonder if that could branch together. I wonder if somehow Cal can run into Thrawn and Ezra.
Okay, so it could still connect to an existing property
Well,
because my question as far as what the game is and whether or not it's a trilogy or a series, is it its own thing or is it something that bridges what's already existing?
right. Well, you got to remember Rebels. So Kanan and Ezra were not around during the three movies, so they could not be around when Luke was around. So that exactly what they did. Kanan got killed. Ezra and Thrawn went to the unknown regions, and that's that. And then that's Luke and all that stuff happened afterwards. So they're gonna have to do the same kind of thing with Cal, because you cannot have him anywhere near anything that's happening during those three movies, because then you're gonna have so many people freaking out about it. So all right, so after we'd already talked about Fallen Order 2 possibly, so the other thing, I'm not gonna talk too much about it just because I don't want this to go too long. But they did mention possibly Bioware working on an Old Republic remaster, which would be really cool. I'd love to get a new game in the Old Republic, but they made the Old Republic Legends. So I'm wondering if the Old Republic's Legends, I'm wondering why they're okay with them remastering it. Are they going to remaster it and change some things to make everything canon? But the problem with that is, if you do that, then there's a less gap between the known canon and the High Republic, which you're about to start building.
Well,
So,
the Old Republic's what, 1,000 years ago, isn't it?
Old
KOTOR?
Republic is... I'm pretty sure the Old Republic is before, or, is closer to the current, like, the events we know about, like the prequels, than the High Republic is. I'm pretty sure the Old Republic is after the High Republic.
Oh, see, I actually thought the High Republic comes in between the Old Republic
Well, the
and
Old Republic's not even a thing anymore. It's
yeah,
Legends. It
well,
doesn't even exist. So it's like, that was my question. I don't understand why. Don't get me wrong, I would love to get it, but I don't understand why they would do that. It just doesn't make sense.
maybe just to remaster it as a game because the property is already out, get more sales.
I guess so, but oh well. So the other thing I just really wanted to quickly mention, because obviously we need this. We need an open world Star Wars game. RPG elements, we just need it, because that's what Star Wars should be. You should be able to go around and do whatever you want. Don't get me wrong, I love linear story, but I also like being able to make my own decisions. And I understand that there are older games out there that were open world, but we need more of that. Even if they remade like Jedi Academy or something, we need.
Was that open world? I never played it.
It wasn't so much open world, but it was more open world than anything that we have now. So I just think that that's a whole genre that you could easily take advantage of, but you canceled 1313. And I honestly, and I know people love Jedi and they want to use a lightsaber and all that stuff. You gotta make a game that's about non-Jedi. You gotta make a bounty hunter game or something like that, to where you're not the superhero with force powers and stuff. You're just a person, like Din Djarin in The Mandalorian, which is a perfect segue to what we're talking about right now. So we're going to talk about the Season 2 theories for The Mandalorian. We will discuss all the Star Wars TV show rumors in the next episode, because there are a lot. But right now, I will say that with the Season 2 theories with casting, well, first off, before I get into that, because I know I have a lot to say about it because I've been following a lot, what are your thoughts and theories on Season 2?
I don't really know enough about what's coming. I know I'd like to pick up the thread with what happened with is it the Dark Saber?
Yes.
And Moff, I don't remember the Moff's name,
Gideon.
but Giancarlo.
Moff Gideon.
Yes, Moff Gideon. I think he's set up to be a villain again. I don't know if the main villain or whatnot. Sort of like how Werner Herzog's character took a back seat, and then we find out there's someone behind him.
Right.
Yeah, there's maybe that possibility, but they could really kind of. There's the part where Oh, what's the name? I'm so bad at this. The name of the Forge Master or
Just the armor.
the armor? Yes, when she says how he has to like take care of the child
Right.
or bring him back to his people.
Right.
Maybe we see a direction where he goes looking for his people.
Yeah. But what do you mean by his people? His race?
Whatever
Jedi?
race.
Yeah, or
Well,
Jedi
whatever
though, because
race.
they know he's force sensitive though. Did she say his race, or did she say his people for a
Well, I think
reason?
that's open to interpretation then.
Right, but the way I look at it as people are gonna be like, oh my god, we're gonna find out what Yoda's species is, but this is kind of gonna segue into what the casting kind of stuff has to do with.
Hmm.
Did you have any additional thoughts before I jumped into that real quick?
No, I don't know a whole ton about season 2. That
Okay.
was just my best guess and what I'd maybe like to see.
Okay, cool. So, back to the whole thing about bringing the child to its people. So, rumors are right now they do have a Tamara Morrison's going to be coming back to do Boba Fett and possibly Captain Rex, who, if anybody doesn't know, he is one of the clone troopers. Definitely look him up. One of the coolest characters in all of Star Wars.
He's Clone Wars, right?
Yeah, Clone Wars.
Yeah.
He was Anakin's like right hand soldier. He was promoted from the bottom up. He's a great character. He's in Clone Wars, but he's also in Rebels as an old man. So that's another thing to think of. And I was mentioning it to you. Rebels is also going on at the same time as the Mandalorian. So there you go. We know that Rex is alive. So the casting. The casting stuff that I was going to talk about is, and man, I totally forgot the woman's name, and it's going to bother me.
Sasha Banks?
No, it's a different,
Oh,
well, I mean, in that situation, but I'm talking about, so basically they have two people coming in, one to play Ahsoka Tano, and one to play what's rumored as Bo-Katan, who right now is the leader of Mandalore, and at one point before Moff Gideon had the Darksaber, she was actually the one that had the Darksaber. So there's a reason for her to be in the story. So Sabine Wren is a Mandalorian from Star Wars Rebels who works with Ahsoka, as well as Bo-Katan. And Rex is very close, like a father figure to Ahsoka. So there are rumors that all four of them are going to be in Mandalorian Season 2, which would be amazing, because I feel like this would be a precursor to the next Star Wars Rebels show, because we need it. We need to know what happened to Ezra. We need to know what happened to Thrawn. Like, this, like, I don't
you
even
know
know
what?
how to
That
explain
brings
it.
me to a question with like the way and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Do you suppose we see those characters not removing their helmet, or closer to something you'd see like in Rebels or the other stuff?
Well, Sabine was less of like a Mandalorian traditionally than anybody else, because originally she was a cadet in the Imperial Academy. So she
Oh,
was originally an Imperial, and then she escaped, became a bounty hunter. So she doesn't live as a traditional Mandalorian like that.
okay.
Bo-Katan doesn't either. They both take their helmets off a lot in the shows that they're in. So they don't live like Din Djarin. So I wonder if they're gonna almost open his eyes a little bit to have him understand. And here's and this is the other thing where I thought was kind of crazy. You have the one episode where they show the flashback to when Din was actually rescued from an attack from droids. He was rescued by Death Watch. And if you don't know, Bo-Katan was like second in command of Death Watch for a long time. So I wonder if Bo-Katan was the one who actually rescued Din, and that's how she's going to be somehow brought into this. And she's going to somehow show him that he doesn't need to live by this creed where he needs to hide himself. Like, that's not a Mandalorian. Like, Mandalorians, yes, are very proud people and they're warriors and to many and stuff, but you don't need to hide what you are. Like, and that's exactly what it should be. The Mandalorians are some of the coolest characters in the whole Star Wars. But they were ridiculed after the end of Clone Wars during the attack on Mandalore. After Darth Maul takes over Mandalore and all that stuff, it was just a black mark on them for a long time.
Well, they were hiding from the Empire or from everyone?
So, Order 66 happened during all this on Mandalore. So, originally, there was a battle on Mandalore against Maul. There was a bunch of clones against Maul and his crime syndicate and Death Watch. So, when they were fighting, Ahsoka was actually not a Jedi at the time, by the way, but fighting against Maul, like her versus Maul, and Order 66 came in the middle of everything. So then it was just chaos. Like, insane stuff started happening. So there's a lot of background to a lot of these characters. And like I said, Bo-Katan was there during that. Ahsoka was there during that. And Rex was there during that. So these characters have all lived through some crazy stuff. And I feel like they can teach Din so much of a lesson about not only like who he is, but like also the child. I mean, Ahsoka's a gray Jedi, as we talked about earlier. I mean, she wields 2 white lightsabers, and in Rebels, she tells Vader that she's gonna kill him, and Vader says that's not the way of the Jedi, and she straight up says to him, "I am no Jedi," and then attacks him. So like, she's gonna, I feel, if she's in the show like we think it is, she's gonna play a huge part in the child's life, and I'm really excited because Ahsoka's like one of my favorite characters. So
Okay.
yeah, I just thought that was something that we really needed to touch on with that. So alright, so I think that's basically everything we touched on, that we could today. We didn't want it to go too long. So in the next episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about Star Wars rumors, stuff like that. We're also going to talk about a lot more gaming stuff. Obviously, we talked about Squadrons and stuff a lot today, but a lot more gaming stuff, just more broad stroke gaming stuff, next-gen consoles, stuff like that. So stay tuned for that. So if you guys like what you're watching, if you guys could just support in any way you can, it'd be greatly appreciated.
I can promise you this episode will be out before the next-gen consoles.
Yeah, I hope so. It'll be a couple days. But, so anyways, thank you guys very much for watching. As far as both of us, we appreciate you guys watching. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, that's it. Let's see if we can get a crowd. You guys like what you see? Hit a like or whatever you have to do and tell a friend.
Yes, seriously, that'd be much appreciated. So, thank you for watching Good Games Played Badly. This is WizzyWizzard at Silverfawks. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.